Welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to focus on getting the rear all the way figured out and ready to weld. So with the transfer case set, I got the drive shaft measurement I need, and that will just help set pinion angle. So I set up this little jig. I'm going to use this drive shaft. I'm going to cut the ends off, and then I'm going to build a new drive shaft with the double cardan in the rear, just so it'll be a little bit better for street driving at the length I need. So we cut the tube out, got both ends cleaned up, so now we'll bolt them to the jig and measure for the tube in the center, and then tack it in and use the dial indicator to see how straight it is. We have them bolted on, and I measured the tube with a little bit of slip showing so that we don't bottom it out. Looks like it'll be 30 3/4, so I'll get some tube cut and we'll start making this happen. So our measurement was 50 1/4. We got a little bit of slip, and we got it retubed. Everything spins nice and free. Added a few tacks, and now I can spin it and see how straight it is. Everything's within 10 to 20 thousandths. When you weld, it's gonna pull a little, so I'll have to do a couple tacks and try to pull it where I want, and then weld it up, and we got a drive shaft. Well, while we're waiting on this to cool down and dry, go underneath the truck and cut the tacks on the spring purchase. So we're gonna cut these tacks here on all four corners, and then that'll allow us to spin the pinion up to where we want it, or down. Once the drive shaft is in, we can set it nice and perfect for ride height. So with the double cardan style joint, you want to point the pinion at the transfer case. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I like to go within about 1 to 3 degrees below pointing straight at it, just because it's leaf spring, so under throttle the pinion's going to pick up a little bit. So that's what we're going to do. Got the drive shaft angle set where I want it with the pinion angle. Everything's looking good there. So now we can retack the perches and then move on to shock mounts, and then we can pull the axle for welding. Got the shock mount tacked in on the lower. The upper, it's going to be about here. I just clapped the shock and measured it so that at flat spring, it's the shock's bottoming out, and then that's where my measurement ended up. So I'll bend up a hoop out of some tube and make that happen. You know, throw a 120-degree bend at it and see what it looks like. should work nicely. Now I just gotta make them out for the bottom end of the tubes and then make them out with the shock. With the shock mounts in, the hoops, and on the axle side, all we have to do is check the flex, make sure they don't hit the frame or the tire, and the pinion angle set. Pretty much ready to pull this rear axle, weld it out, and gear it. Let's pull the rear end and start doing the gears. Got the Dita 70 out. Gonna double check all the measurements just one last time, make sure everything is centered where we want it, and make sure the pinion angle with the leaf spring purchase are the exact same. And then we're gonna move on to gears. This is the parts here, install kit, an extra spacer, the gears, and a true track. So let's get started. Got the mounts all measured and welded, so everything's good there. So now I marked the caps, just one single there and two here, just to make sure that you keep side to side and directional. So I'm gonna start taking this apart, and I'll set everything up over here with the used stuff, and then start figuring out the new. So got the whole old diff torn apart. This will basically give me the shims for each side and the shim for the pinion. A little bent, but I'll measure it with the calipers, get the new shims to match, and then that's what I'll start out with and see what the pattern looks like and go from there. So the old shim was 620. This one is 3 shims and same reading. So we'll use that to start out with and see what that does for pinion depth. So I'm gonna pull this pinion seal, pull the bearing out of there, and then knock both the races out. So because the new races have a different taper, and you always want to replace the races anyways. So knock this one out and that one out in there, and then throw the new bearings on and set the pinion, and we're gonna carry. Got both the races knocked out, cleaning it up. So this is the bearing that came with the gear set, and this is the races. Huge size difference. Luckily we have a 70U kit as well with the right size, so we're going to use that. So yeah, pinion's a little bit different size on a 70U versus the HD. Going to use the same bearing puller tool to press on the new pinion bearing. Got the pinion in. No seal, no preload set for the pinion bearings yet because we still got to run some patterns, but it's in, so now we can get the carrier in and set it with the same shims and see where we're at. Got the pattern all dialed in, ready to go. Everything's fully welded in the rear, all the suspension is dialed, shock mounts are all done, and the axle is geared and locked. Time to move on to the front.